All right, everyone, welcome back. I have to apologize. It's been a little minute since I last recorded part three of this video. Real life just took over, I'm afraid, and in the end, I completely forgot that I'd made these videos in the first place. So I'm committed now to finishing these off, and we're going to get this done, Starship finished off and done on Sketchup. So unfortunately, I've had a bit of a computer issue as well. I've lost all the previous iterations of the model that I had, so I have attempted to sort of recreate it as closely as I could from scratch. Luckily, I had some bits and pieces saved, but not all of it. But I'm going to show you actually just a quick way of recreating a few little bits and pieces as I've learned some other tricks since then. So it's actually a bit of a bonus. Now, beforehand, I created the saucer section by basically making a large circle and working it from there. I'm going to show you a different way of working it this time. Really important, guys, if you're going to recreate a starship from scratch and you kind of recreate something that already exists, is to have a really good detailed set of schematics there as a picture, which you can import, which I've done. This is courtesy of Nova Designs. So thank you, Nova Designs, for making this amazing model here. Look at the detail on all the texturing and everything. It looks absolutely fantastic. So great job, mate. And I hope you don't mind me using this just as a backdrop so I can make sure that my model is at least a little bit as good as yours. Okay, so back to where we were beforehand then, just to show you a different way of making the saucer section. You can see here that I'm using a plan view. I've gone from perspective view to parallel projection view, which is really good if you're trying to work on plans and drawings. It gives you that kind of accurate view without any angles or perspectives kind of getting in the way and warping things. I've drawn half of the saucer section from the side view on, and you can see here that the angles here at the edges are actually quite sharp. So I'm going to round these off a little bit. I'm going to press Control A, or just hit here the 2-point arc key on the side, pick a point, and then pick another point along, and you can see here that the arc turns pink. Now, if I highlight it a little bit further up here, all this means is that from my origin point, the arc kind of matches on following along from this line, okay? So wherever I go, it'll always match up so that it's in line with this origin line here, if that makes sense. Once it turns pink, it shows me that the arc is now parallel to both lines, okay? So I'm going to just click on that, and it fills in the void for me. And now I've got a nice rounded edge. Okay, I'm going to just delete that center part there so I can sort of see what I'm doing. Same thing here. You can, same as a circle, you can change how many edges are in an arc. So if you see here, it's quite blocky. I'm going to do something like 20 sides. So I'm going to press 20 and then S and enter. And you can see here it automatically smooths it out. If I was to do 60 and S, it smooths it out even more because that arc now has 60 sides to it. Because the area here is quite small, you don't actually need that many edges, and you want to sort of save on memory if you can. So what I'm going to do is basically press something like maybe 10 sides. That should be sufficient there. Awesome. Great. You know, incidentally, if it was going to be a huge arc that'd be really visible, like from here to here, maybe I would want a few more sides to it because it's going to be like a really large and apparent curve. But for little detaily ones, you don't need that many edges on it. So I'm going to do here. Again, you know, even 5 edges on this one, perfect. From a distance, they'll be absolutely fine. Maybe I'll go back to 10 on this one. It's a bit bigger. 10 sides to that arch. Beautiful. That's curved it out nicely. Oh, one more here. Maybe just a little 5 sides on that one. Good. It just adds just the rounded corners, which just give a more authentic look. So you can see how now from the side point of view, I've created a fairly accurate reproduction of the saucer section. Okay. All right, now I've got this little piece here and I want to extrude it around the big circle. So what I'm going to do, Using the center point there, you can see the little blue dot highlights where the center of that line is. Make sure I've got it on the right axis by pressing the arrow keys. I'm going to pull my circle out. And again, fairly big circle here, so I want something that's going to be fairly smooth. So I'm going to do maybe 60 sides to that circle. And I'm going to get rid of it in that middle part there. So I've just got the edge there, which is what I need. Now the edge I've drawn, this circle here, doesn't necessarily need to touch the piece that I'm extruding round, but it does help if it's close. And it also does help if all of the circle is visible, okay? And I'll show you why. If I was to try and extrude this circle around, it can get a little bit messy if I can't see where I'm going. Luckily on this part, it's a fairly simple shape. It does allow me to go all the way around and complete the circle. But generally speaking, I'm just going to get rid of this momentarily. Perhaps we'll flip over to the other side. There we go. Yeah, it does help a little bit if you can actually see the full circle or the full direction that you're doing it in. Beautiful. Now this is light blue here. This means it's the negative side. And I don't think my circle has actually matched up very well there. So I'm just going to try that again. Sometimes it can take a couple of goes to get right. That's better. Get rid of that circle. Let's get our schematics back in place. And there we are. We can see here that I've got a fairly accurate saucer section now, which is awesome. Right, we've pretty much caught up with where we were before. So now I'm going to use a rectangle to work on the next section. I'll make this a group. And we're just going to slide this over maybe 50 meters, 50, enter. Beautiful. Okay. I'm going to start off with a rectangle. And I want to make sure that the rectangle is about as long as the longest point. So I'll start off at the top. Might be a bit glitchy because I'm recording, guys. So sorry if you see bits of the screen freezing. I'm experimenting with a new software here, so it might not be perfect. Just going to put this rectangle back here and work from the back end now and the back view. I just want to make sure that it's the right thickness. So we're just going to change its orientation by rotating it. And I'm going to use the scale key there just to widen it a little bit. And we're going to round the edges. So I'm just going to add maybe a few more edges to that circle. You can see how blocky that is there. Let's do 10 sides. There we go. I don't want a full half circle, maybe something a bit less. Perfect. I'm going to copy that piece there. I'm going to flip it. And then I'm going to chuck it on the other end. So we know it's exactly the same sort of proportions at either end. And now by deleting those separation lines, we've got one smooth piece. Great. Let's lay this along here. Great. I'm going to rotate around. I'm just going to turn it sideways. Here we go. Come back to the top. Move it into position. I think that's more or less where I want it. There we go. Lovely. And then I'm going to click into that component or that group box. Use the push-pull button to bring it down. Lovely. That's more or less the right height. Okay. I'm going to move this over by 50 meters as well, just to get that out of the way. We want to see what we're doing here without any blocks of the view. So let's make sure we get that to the right sort of depth. we want it to be sloped. So I'm going to now double click on that, highlight it so that the edge is filled up and the ring is all highlighted blue. And hopefully this will work. That's it. So we're going to move it now using the move key here. I'm going to click on the edge, which is all highlighted. I'm going to press the left key, which hopefully moves it along a certain axis here, the green axis. Fantastic. And we can see that the bottom edge here is actually not as long as the top edge here. So I'm just going to highlight that little ring section. There we go. And we're going to do the same sort of thing. We're going to just move that in a bit along the green axis. And make sure we've got the right kind of length there. And because I don't want these harsh lines to be visible there, I'm just going to double click on everything to highlight it and smooth it out a little bit. Beautiful. Alrighty, let's chuck our bits and pieces back into play. 50 grand. Ooh-wee, starting to look a bit more like a starship now, eh? Okay. Got my pylons. I know I'd placed these already last time accurately. Now you can see here there's a teeny bit of a discrepancy, obviously, between my older model and the official version. I'm just going to make an allowance for that. I'm going to highlight that next section. You guys can tweak this as you wish. I'm just doing this for ease of demonstration. Make sure that it all touches in. Again, we're still hovering a little bit out of the hole there. We want it to make contact with it. So we will just go in a little bit deeper. I'm using the scale key. You want to make sure that I'm highlighting the blue scale up and down. And then I can just pull it in. And there we go. Contact has been made. Superb. And we've got our next section. Now I want to make sure that everything is placed accurately. So what I'm going to make this a component, all grouped together. And then I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it elsewhere. But rotate it so it's a different view. Let's go back to that top view. Now at the moment, my nacelle is placed in completely the wrong place. I need to correct that. So I'm just trying to position it fairly accurately on the original model here. Let's highlight my pieces that I need to rearrange. Okay. Here's my pylon. I want to make sure that that is in the right position. Great. And you'll notice here that everything I'm doing here is going to be happening to its counterpart there. Okay, that's the difference between a component box and a group. So if I was to do the same thing, let's explode this here. Just as a demonstration. We'll explode that. Got all my separate elements here. All right, but I want to group them all together into one big block. Highlight them all, make group. Great, now I can now move everything all as one. If I was to duplicate that as a group, anything I do in this box doesn't have any effect in the parent box over there. However, if I was to make this instead a component and do the same sort of thing, everything I do in the component box now mirrors directly what's happening in the parent box, okay? So when you're doing stuff like this and you want to reposition a model or reposition certain elements, making everything in a component can be quite helpful, as it allows you to maintain your positioning in the model there. So for example, I know here that the angle from the front is correct, but not necessarily from the side. So I can come back into this view, get that into the right position. Obviously that hasn't changed the front view at all, but I can see here that the length is wrong. So come round a little bit. Again, we're going to use that scaling key and just make sure that contact is made. Beautiful. I now know that the model is looking fairly accurate from the side and from the front. I'm just mucking up the views here, sorry. There we go. All right, now I want to mirror this. So I'm going to highlight the pylon and the nacelle. Probably be easy if I just make them a component as well. I'm going to Control C, copy that. I'm going to flip everything along wrong axis. That was the red. It probably needs to be green. Nope. Oh well, I'm just going to rotate it. That'll do. And then paste that back into place. There we go. So now we've got two of them. Great stuff. Let's go back to a perspective view. And because it's a component, there we go. Because this nacelle is a component, everything I do on this nacelle is going to have an effect on its partner. All right, guys. I'll try and keep these videos fairly short, but we're getting there. I'm going to do another part, so hopefully I'll see you on that one as well, and we'll work on maybe the bridge and the dish, a few more little details, maybe work on some texturing as well. All right, guys. Thanks for joining me this far. Give the video a thumbs up if you did like it, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.